Welcome to the Chronicles of the Christian Drama Queen podcast. I am your host and the original Christian Drama Queen, Lisa Schaefer, and I'm glad that you are here. I can promise you that I know what it's like to think like a lover of Jesus, but live like a hot mess every day. And if you can relate to that, listen, you're in the right place, because everything from the craziness of homeschooling my kids for 25 years to overcoming deep wounds of abandonment and abuse as a child, I want you to stay with me, sister, because I've walked down all of those paths and a lot more, and I've got decades of healing and hope to share with you. So here we go. I don't know about you, but I have loved ones who are addicts. They're addicted to alcohol. Some of them are addicted to meth. Some of them are addicted to other drugs of choice. Some of them have at some point been addicted to cold medicine. There are just all these. We live in a world where it's very easy and accessible to get a hold of things that you can be addicted to. Now, there are lots of reasons why people become addicted. I believe the greatest reason is self-medicating because of pain. I know for my loved ones who have struggled with addiction, some of them family, some of them friends, to a great extent, their pain is trauma from childhood. They have dealt with abandonment and suffering abuse and a lack of security in their life. There are all kinds of different personal experiences that children go through that create feelings of worthlessness, of being unloved and unwanted, or not being protected. And that pain, that suffering, will direct them at times to a place where they feel like they've got to numb the pain. They have to create a safer place emotionally and mentally, and they will use medications or drugs or alcohol to do that. But I'm going to talk about my own problem today. I'm going to talk about my own issues with addiction. Now, I grew up in the 80s. I was a rock singer in a small little garage band in Southeast Kansas. Man, we were good. Doesn't everybody think that about their garage band? We were great. And we did have some very, very talented musicians in the band, I will tell you. I might tag them in this because they were great musicians. And we had a good time. We loved making music. We covered all of the great 80s groups and bands and had a great time. You know, everything from Billy Idol to Pat Benatar to AC/DC to Dokken. I mean, we covered some great songs and we had a lot of fun. Some of us were not sober. Some of us had a tendency to drink to excess while we performed. Some of us had a tendency to smoke a little pot, smoke a little weed, marijuana, for those of you that don't know what pot or weed is, which, you know, I'm not sure what box you're living in if you don't know what pot or weed is. But anyway, so I took some pills. I wanted to stay thin. So I took a lot of speed to stay thin. And I smoked cigarettes. You know, honestly, that's still a recurring problem for me, is that I still want to smoke. So I fight that. I do fight that. But those were not addictions for me. I used them to excess. I used them to feel good. I used them to party. There were times when I also used, and I write about this in my book, Discarded, a daughter's journey to reclaim freedom and forgive the father who left her behind. I talk about promiscuity at a very young age and trying to fill a void within my heart that God created for him to live in. And so I did all of those things, but I will tell you the addiction of choice. And some of you who watch the videos of me know this already. I'm probably 100 pounds overweight. I struggle with the addiction to food. there is a level, and here's the reason why I think that is, and I'm not blaming anyone for this. I want to make sure my mother, if she's listening, knows I'm not blaming her or my grandmother for this. But the safest times in my life, oh my goodness, I think I'm going to cry. The safest times in my life were times when I was with my mother and my grandparents eating. I remember at a very young age, my mother stressing about money. There was no child support. There was no state funded child support. There was no WIC. There was no, there were food stamps, but people completely looked at you as if you were a bum if you used them, even if you needed them. There were many, many times when we were just very poor. And my mom worked as hard as she could, as long as she could, but there were three of us. I had a younger brother. She didn't make a lot of money. That's why every time she'd get a raise or a promotion, she'd take it and we'd move. So we lived in, I don't know, 9 or so different places before I was 10 years old. But here's the point I'm trying to make. That level of insecurity, that lack of my father being around to protect me, that lack of consistent safety meant that the one time I felt secure, I would cling to. It was when I was with my grandparents and my grandmother had cooked her homegrown green beans with bacon and her homemade noodles with chicken and mashed potatoes and her homemade pumpkin pies and her homemade cakes that sat on the counter of her kitchen every time you walked in the door. Now, my grandmother's passed away. I'm not sure how much of what she did with food was an addiction for her, but in her mind, she was just providing a safe and healthy place for her family, and there was always food. My grandfather worked hard. There was always food. So the time I felt the most secure was when I was eating with my grandmother, with my mom. Now, again, I'm not blaming anybody about my need to stuff my face. I am convinced that it's legal, it's convenient, it's handy, it tends to be cheap. Not so much anymore, thanks to certain economic issues. But food can be found, and we find ourselves comforting ourselves with it. I didn't realize what an issue it was. I knew I was. Listen, I tend to be very lazy. Christian Drama Queen is quite honest with you. I'm very authentic about this. I hate exercise. I can remember riding my bicycle with my husband across the state of Oklahoma. Loved the experience, but hated the riding. I hated the cycling. Okay. I'm not big on exercise. I love to take walks with people that I love just so we can talk. It's a social thing. It's not an exercise thing, right? And so I'm not big on, I'm not losing weight. I'm not big on losing weight. Now, there have been times I have lost quite a bit of weight. I mean, I at one point in time, I was close to 300 pounds, and I have lost quite a bit of weight, and I've kept it off, but it's always a struggle. Losing weight is always a struggle for me because I find comfort in eating. I'm just being flat honest with you. And I think that it is the acceptable addiction. Listen to me, pick up what I'm putting down. It is the acceptable addiction in the church. How many of us are fat? Look around on Sunday morning. I can remember sitting not too long ago in a restaurant where I very healthfully, is that a word? Ordered a salad and a protein to go with it. No carbohydrates. I was trying to behave in a fast food setting. About 85% of the people that walked in the door were obese. And I'm not talking about 10 or 15 pounds overweight. I mean, 40, 50, 60, 80 pounds overweight when they walked in the door. Okay. It's a problem. And I think the reason for that is we don't take advantage of casting all of our cares upon Jesus because he cares for us. We find comfort in the food. It makes us feel full. It makes us feel satisfied. Sweets taste good. It creates a response, chemical response in our brain. We enjoy that feeling. There's a level of happiness that comes with eating. Why are so many church events? How many church events are focused on food? We have a dinner on Sunday night. We have a potluck here and there. We're doing a fundraiser. We sell sweets that are terribly unhealthy to our children and to families, and that is our fundraiser. There's a reason why food is involved. Now listen, there's a place for food. There's a place for food. And it's interesting to me that Jesus said at the Last Supper that whenever you do this, breaking bread and eating, whenever you do this, do this in remembrance of me. It's fascinating to me that the activity of breaking bread is supposed to be synonymous or it's supposed to cause us to remember the breaking of our Lord's body for us. And for many of us, we are replacing our relationship and the comfort that we need to find with Christ with snack cakes and popcorn late at night. And I knew this was a problem for me when I got into an argument with my 16-year-old son many, many years ago. Oddly enough, somebody had actually said to me, pay attention to when you run to the cabinet and look for food. Pay attention to when you're going and looking for something sweet to eat. And sure enough, it was happening after an argument with one of my kids. He slammed the door in my face in my home. That's a whole nother podcast. We'll get into that another time. And I caught myself at the pantry. The kitchen was right next to his room. And I caught myself at the pantry and I realized, oh my word, I'm trying to satisfy a longing for comfort with food. And I began to examine the fact that I'd probably been doing that for years. Listen, sister, there's nothing that comforts the way that Jesus comforts. There's nothing that fills the void of feeling unprotected and unwanted and unloved like a relationship with Jesus. Nothing fills that void the way that he does. And you know why? He created that God-sized hole to be filled by him. So I want you to pay attention. Are you running to the pantry when you're not hungry? Most of the time, we're not running to the pantry for food because we're hungry. We're running to the pantry because we need to fill a void. We've got we call it a craving. Now, I'm not telling you there's not cravings. I know there's cravings. Okay. As someone who's battled addiction to food and just being overweight and eating things I shouldn't, I know there are addictions that are created chemically in the body. I get that. But I have to wonder how much we could fill the void of our lives instead of with food by finding comfort from Jesus, like he tells us to cast all of our cares upon him because he cares for us. Imagine it this way. You get into a fight with your 16-year-old and you have a choice to turn left or turn right. To your right is Jesus holding his arms open, waiting for you to run into his arms. And to your left is the pantry full of Little Debbie snack cakes. Which one do you choose? Think about that, will you? And I guess that's going to do it for me today, guys. Thanks for joining me today on the Chronicles of the Christian Drama Queen podcast. I am your host, Lisa Schaefer. There are lots of ways to find me on social media. Of course, I'm on Facebook, and I'm also available on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel. It's called Christian Drama Queen. You can go check out the videos of these podcasts right there on that YouTube channel. There's a website that you can go to just find out a little bit more about me. It's christiandramaqueen.com, and you can always email me, same place, lisa@christiandramaqueen.com. Don't forget to share me with a friend, guys. Like me, shoot me some hearts, fill out those comments, make sure that you've given me a rating or a review of some sort, because listen, the only way that other people find out we're here is for you to let them know that I'm here. And listen, we not only appreciate that, we really believe that God's going to use it. And you know I love you.